Hey folks, this is the week kind of in review from Washington D.C. So we're going to go over some of the bills that we moved and how I voted on them. What do we got first here?
So could you tell us, sir, a little bit about the bill you voted on today, restricting
Oh, so we voted on a bill today. I voted yes to deport people here illegally that are arrested for driving under the influence, whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, that type of thing. If you've already broken our laws and come into our country and then further broken our laws by driving under the influence, imperiling everybody on the road, there's no reason that you should remain in our country. You're here illegally, and I think that it's a reasonable and a minimum standard. Well, you shouldn't be here in the first place, but let's face that. But that aside, if you are here illegally and you're also driving under the influence, immediate deportation. So that was the bill on the floor, and I voted in favor of that.
Could you talk a little bit about H.R. 7070 and your amendment to the Wildfire Response Improvement Act?
The Wildfire Response Improvement Act. So that's a bill to make sure that California gets more money for wildfire response. Now, all of us are horrified about when we see the wildfires in California, homes and whole communities are burned and so on and so forth. And I don't know whether you knew this or not, but the federal government actually pays the lion's share of the cost of that firefighting capability and the repair kind of the area, the homes, etc. The federal government pays for that, which means you pay for that. Now, we can have a discussion about how much and what's appropriate and so on and so forth, but I had an amendment on that bill to say that California, or any state, not just California, but any state needs to have a wildfire prevention program. They have to have a program in place to receive the funds. And the problem is that California, of all states, doesn't have a program, and of the program that they do have, which is non-binding, they don't follow it. And to make matters worse, not only is it non-binding and they don't follow it, but then they go and lie about it. And then they come to Congress and demand more money. And so I had an amendment that said you've got to have a program. It's got to deal with fire prevention. It's got to deal with treatment of the forest, especially around power lines, and have a plan. Have a plan. And many of my colleagues didn't want me to offer the amendment. I was told to remove the amendment, asked to remove the amendment. I refused to because I think it's important, and we need to have a discussion about it. So we did have a debate on the amendment, and at the end, the committee asked if they could work with me on instituting that language into the final bill if I would withdraw the amendment at that time. So I agreed to withdraw the amendment under the proviso that we're going to include that kind of language of accountability for any state to have. It's a partnership. And the partnership can't be that you get to go wreck the car and I keep paying for it. The partnership has to be you got to take some care of your side of the agreement, and then we'll help you out. And so we have that agreement, and I think that's a good thing. That's how amendments sometimes work, and we'll see what happens in the future with that bill. But that's what that was about.
There's a tax bill introduced this week, the Wyden-Smith tax bill, that could hurt a lot of taxpayers. Could you tell us about that?
So the Wyden-Smith tax bill was originally designed or intended to what's the right term here? Make sure all the different tax code provisions lined up at the same time. There's a bunch that are going to expire, but they expire at different years, and they want to kind of have them all at the same time, as opposed to some expiring this year and some expiring 2 years from now. So in that, unfortunately, what we did was, in an attempt to try and kind of sequence those things all together, is we added things that we didn't need to do. So first of all, we're giving a great tax break for, say, immediate expensing. So if a business buys a piece of equipment, they can immediately write off that expense, which I'm fully supportive of. Or the research and development tax credit. So if you're spending your profits on research and development and putting that work and that money back into your company, you shouldn't have to pay taxes on it, because you're not getting the profit is being sunk back in your employees and your company. So I'm for that as well. The problem is they expanded what's called the child tax credit. And what it does is it's a refundable tax credit, which is even more so. It literally pays people that haven't paid taxes money that they've never paid in. Based on the number of children they have and the income they have. So they literally don't pay any taxes, but they get thousands of dollars in tax money depending on how many children they have. And so to me, number one, it hollows out the working class because they're paying for it, but they don't get the benefit of it because their threshold is too high. They make too much money, number one. And number two, people that come here illegally, let's say you have two people here illegally and they have a child in America. The child is an American citizen. The child has a social security number. The child now gets the tax credit, but the child doesn't get it. The parents get it. And we're expanding this. Just remember, in December, we had over 300,000 people come across the border illegally. In the 4 years of this administration, we will have between 10 and 12 million people come into the country illegally. That's just short of the size of the state of Pennsylvania. The same amount of people coming illegally. We're all going to be paying for that. And I don't think that's a reward that people should get for being in this country illegally. And so I was a no vote on that. It's just a continual strain on our economy, on your ability to pay your bills. Things cost more, things become more dangerous. I don't know if you recently saw the video in New York City of 2 police officers being beaten by Venezuelan gangs. Those are people that are here illegally. That doesn't need to happen. That shouldn't be happening. That wouldn't be happening if we had a secure border. The last thing we want to do is incentivize people to come here illegally by saying, we'll give you money if you have children in our country and you're here illegally, which is literally what this does. There's a whole lot of other issues with the bill. For instance, there was disaster relief money, but only for certain states, which I don't think that's appropriate. Pennsylvania has its share of disasters like every other state. We're a highly flood-prone state, and so I didn't think that was fair. And then also how we were going to pay for these tax breaks. We've got to make sure we balance our budget. We just went over $34 trillion. By May, we will be $35 trillion in debt. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have extra money to be handing out. And so I'd be pleased to support a decent and reasonable tax package. I want everybody to keep the money or more of the money that they earn. But this was not a reasonable compromise, and especially with all these people coming illegally into the country, it sends a horrible message, and it's unaffordable. Those, I think, were the big takeaways for the week and the big pieces of legislation.
Can you tell us why the National Prayer Breakfast is important to you?
Well, the National Prayer Breakfast, I just attended it. It's been going on since the Eisenhower administration. And believe it or not, there's a lot of, Washington's a hard place to work. And you got to remember what's important and be grounded in something. And so, if nothing else, it's an opportunity for Republicans and Democrats to sit together and think about the things that we collectively agree with and believe in. And so that's an opportunity to put the politics aside while you're in Washington, D.C., have a little fellowship and talk about the good Lord who has blessed our great country with everything we have. And it was a great privilege to attend the National Prayer Breakfast again in the Capitol this morning. All right, that's it for the week. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you.